Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer for Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to be with you all today. Thanks for joining me. This is our training camp update number 13. We've got several things to hit on, a lot to talk about. Obviously, yesterday was the scrimmage. It was disappointing from the offensive side. Um, very disappointing. It doesn't mean that every player was disappointing, but speaking holistically, it was a disappointment. The defense was absolutely outstanding and played freakish. Uh, it was really amazing, but we got a lot to talk about today. And as you can imagine, when you are as direct as I was in yesterday's podcast, it created a lot of emails. So I'm going to read some emails. And I need you to understand I'm on the road. I'm here in Costa Mesa. I don't have a printer to print the emails like I normally do. So I'll be reading basically the gist of the email and who wrote it and get right into this. The first one comes with some Martin B. Martin says, Hondo, I have a question for you just in regards to my scrimmage recap. He says, you said it was the best that you had seen Tyree in camp. Can you elaborate? I don't know that I said it was the best. Maybe I did because it was the best I'd seen him in camp. But Martin, here is what I would say to you. I think that when they selected Tyree, the initial plan in the building, and I told you this the night he was drafted, was that basically his rookie year was going to be a redshirt season. And if you're familiar with the term redshirting from college, it just basically meant that they weren't going to count it. He needed to heal, he needed to get healthy, but he was a rare athlete and what they call a dude in the NFL. Obviously, with Chandler Jones and the way some other things happened, he got pushed a little bit earlier than he should have been. Then Patrick Graham takes over. They move him to the inside, and he got better and was playing very well at the end of the year, but still wasn't healthy. He's healthy now, but you have to look at this as the beginning of a rookie year for him. And I can tell you this: has he lit the world on fire? No, has not. Has he performed well when you look at it in the circumference of perspective? Yes. Is there any disappointment with him from the team perspective? Now remember, that's the most important part. A lot of people, Martin, they want to get they'll say, Hondo, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Or I'll give, I'm giving you what I'm hearing from the decision makers and the people whose voice really matters. Mine doesn't matter. And so I'm telling you, there is zero panic in the building with Tyree. It's being approached as, okay, this is a rookie year. He's finally healthy. Let's go. I thought the scrimmage was the best that I'd seen him in camp, but no, I'm not going to pretend like he's lit the world on fire, but he's also behind some great players who are playing great. And that's a big deal. That is a very big deal when you're playing behind great players. It's difficult to get that shine. But I can tell you this: there's no angst in the building whatsoever, and I think that he's doing fine. Again, hasn't lit the world on fire. I'm not trying to pretend that he has. Next one comes to us from Zachary S. Zachary S. says, basically, are you concerned that you're going to make people in the building unhappy when you're as blunt as you were the other night, last night? No, my job's to tell the truth. As long as I'm fair, I have zero concern about it. Plus, you have to understand, I'll take what I see and ask questions. And so there are times when I'll tell you this is what Hondo thinks, but that was a pretty fair synopsis of what they felt in the building. And again, I said this last night and I'll say it again tonight. I don't believe there's any reason for panic. They've not even played a first preseason game, and it was the first scrimmage. However, it was an incredibly disappointing scrimmage. Please understand the verbiage there. You have to understand things in order. Okay. If you're potty training your toddler and he potties in his pants, you can be frustrated about it, but he's a toddler. You know what? You just keep going. But your 18-year-old kid does it, and you're like, what? That's my point. It's at you have to understand place, timing, all of it. Incredibly disappointing scrimmage. No reason whatsoever to panic. And I would tell you, Raider Nation, if I felt all right, it was time for you to panic, I would tell you this. If the offense looks like this after the second preseason game, the way it did last night, I would think there'd be cause for great concern. After 2 games, then I would think, okay, it's time to panic. After 2 regular season games, I don't think it's close to that. But see, you still don't lower the standard. I am never, ever going to apologize for having standards of people that you think are good. Okay. The Raiders aren't the Carolina Panthers. This is a franchise whose motto is just win, baby. They've wandered in the wilderness. They have a good team. They have extremely good coaching staff, and they've got a lot of talent around them. There are expectations now. It is not wrong to hold people to a standard of expectation. Nick Saban used to say all the time, you inspect what you expect. Now, you guys have heard me. I give a lot of leeway to rookies. A lot of leeway to rookies, and I give a lot of leeway to second-year guys. Third-year guys, money-year guys, and higher, you expect there to be production. Okay, I have not talked about Max Crosby a lot this camp. You know why? Because he looks like the best player in the NFL. He's playing at that level. He's being Max Crosby. There's not really a lot to talk about. He's looks fantastic, playing fantastic, leading fantastically. There's not a lot to say. There you go. Next one comes in from Jamie H. Jamie wants to know, is it fair to say that I am in love with Aiden and not Gardner based upon my comments? No. Let's go back. Let's talk about it. I love Gardner Minshew. I like his style. I like the way he plays. Great kid. Same way with Aiden O'Connell. Okay, really great kid. But remember, this isn't Hondo expectations. I'm giving you what the franchise feels. So let me go back and cover this again. And I appreciate the question, Jamie. You've got Gardner Minshew, who has a lot of reps, has played a lot of football in this league. I have a standard of expectation for Gardner Minshew that's higher than Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell was a rookie who played half a year. So there are things that from Gardner that, all right, let me give you a quick one. I told you early in camp he threw 2 interceptions. I said that's not going to cut it in this league. And on this team. That's not what they want. And he's been very good with the interceptions. Had the interception last night to Jack Jones, but he's been very good about it. He corrected it. Okay? That's good job by Gardner Minshew. But I also was very critical of Aiden O'Connell throwing it into triple coverage in the end zone. Triple coverage, throwing the INT. So, no, I think that's completely unfair. And I've been very open about what are the standards. And so I think neither quarterback has differentiated themselves at this point. And I think going into the scrimmage, it was very close, but Aiden was ahead. I said that, and I stand by it because where my information is. And I would tell you now, I think it's pretty close. I think now it's a crapshoot. Somebody's got to go out and seize it. So when you see receivers dropping balls or you see guys with penalties and making mistakes, you want to see a quarterback be the on-field guy. Let me give you a great example here, Jamie. A couple days ago, you may remember I reported that the offense won the day. But there was a point in that play, in that maybe even was the first day of pads. Maybe it was the day before they won it. I don't remember now. It's all running together. Day 13. But there was a play where the offense, for a couple plays in a row early in practice, the offensive line had done a tremendous job against the defensive line. And AP yells at Max, and I don't remember what his exact words were, if it was, "Hey, where are your guys?" or something along those lines. Max erupted like a volcano and got his guys, it was all over his guys, and the defense responded. You got to have those field generals, and on defense, it can be usually it's a linebacker. On the Raiders, it's cool because Max, Spillane, Epps, Christian, there's a ton of those leaders. That's fantastic. The more, the better. But usually on offense, it's got to be your quarterback. It has to be. I'll never forget one time covering a football game in Lambeau Field, and Brett Favre went after his team, and they roared back. They were at a deficit and roared back for a blowout win. And I remember talking to Brett after the game about that. In fact, even talking to some of his teammates, and it inspired them. See, good football teams find a way to win when they're not playing well. Now, I'm going to go back and say that again because that's an important thing. And you need to write that down in the dust of your dash. Good teams find a way to win ball games when they haven't played well. You're never going to play. You're going to have last nights during the season when the team doesn't look good. Some games it may be the special teams. Sometimes games it may be defense. It may be offense. And good teams will still find ways to win games when they don't play well. That's why I've reiterated to you over my 5 years of covering the Raiders. The motto is just win, not lose pretty. And so I am looking from Aiden or Gardner, who are in the middle of this QB battle, to go out and be that field general. All right, guys, let's go. Let's go. Come on now. We're better than this. Yeah, that is the best defense in the NFL we're facing. But that doesn't mean we get to just mail it in. We still have to be here. We still have to make an impression. We still have to fight. I want to see somebody with a dumb penalty. Watch a quarterback walk off the field with them. Doesn't have to embarrass them, but get in their face. Come on, man. We're going against the best defense. We are not good enough to beat them and ourselves. We may be able to hold our own or do some good, but we can't when we beat ourselves. Those are the things I'm looking for. If you think I'm being too harsh for holding a team to a standard and having an expectation, that's fine, and you're entitled to that. But if you think I'm not hearing that on the inside, and you think for 1 second Antonio Pierce, Luke Getsy, Patrick Graham, Tom McMahon, Mark Davis, Tom Telesco aren't holding to a standard, those guys, you're nuts. Absolutely nuts. And I know that's not what you're doing. I'm just simply saying to you, I have zero concerns. My job is to not be everybody's buddy. My job is to be the eyes and ears of the fans. I think some people go way negative way too quick. Way negative way too quick. Again, I don't think the sky is falling. I think the offense compared to the defense is not a comparison, and they're not good enough to beat themselves and the Raiders defense. Now, there's some teams on this schedule that they may be able to beat, not at their best, but not a lot of them. I will never apologize for holding to a standard. Okay, the next one comes to us from Steve T. Steve T says, Hondo, I have a quick question if you could help me. Remember, I don't have a copy here, so I'm trying to Read just the quick notes. Mm. He was watching a YouTuber explaining the Jack Jones interception when I talked about Gardner's interception to Jack Jones and how it hit the receiver's hands. And the YouTuber said I was wrong for blaming Gardner, and it was proof that I don't like Gardner. Well, first of all, there's an old movie, I think it was Tommy Boy, and where Chris Farley says, I can get a good look at a T-bone by putting my head up a bull's rear, or I can take the butcher's word for it. If you want to listen to people that are not here, I'm not even going to comment. I don't comment on other media, nor do I even remotely comment on people that aren't here. I got nothing for you. The ball was there. It was the ball. There was contact with the ball, but it was not a pass thrown that should have been thrown where it was thrown. So I buy that 100%. But you're welcome to listen to whomever you want. Just don't email me about it. Next comes from Sean P. talking about the quarterback competition. Does Anthony Brown have a chance? Yeah, Sean, I've talked about this. It is a battle between Gardner and it is a battle between Aiden, Anthony Brown. But I said before camp, Anthony Brown was not going to get a lot of reps as far as in competitive with those two. So it was going to be imperative that when he got them, he made the most of them. So last night, Gardner and Aiden did not look good. Last night would have been the night for Anthony Brown to make a statement. He had 2 fumbles on 1 play. And do I think he's a good quarterback? Mm-hmm. Do I think he's talented? I sure do. I've told you earlier in this camp, I thought he was having a good camp. My disappointment in Anthony Brown last night was because I really liked the kid. I'd like to see him get a shot to compete for the QB1 job. And so last night was his golden opportunity, and he missed it, literally, figuratively, and literally dropped the ball. So yeah, I think he's a good quarterback. I think he can play in this league, but it doesn't matter if you look good in practice. When the bullets are live and you're going at it, that's where you have to make plays. I'll never forget one time a buddy of mine that played with Brett Favre said this. I've used 2 stories now about Brett. I don't know that maybe I have used this story before, but he talked about how Brett was not the best practice quarterback, but just when he got in on the games, he was Brett Favre. When the bullets became live, he became great. Okay. Christian Wilkerson last year looked great when the bullets weren't live, not so great when they were. Now, he's working on that. But that's my whole point to you is that when opportunity in camp is precious. Right now, if you're a guy on the bottom end of the defensive roster, it is really hard to get noticed because the guys at the top and the middle are playing really well. Really well. I mean, Malcolm Kuntz and Max Crosby look like the best DE combination in the league. I mean, Butler and Christian Wilkins, John Jenkins, Byron Young, who's playing out of his mind. I mean, there's just so much talent there. It's hard for guys to move up. And Janarius Robinson has shown some stuff at times not. So there's a little bit of a room there. I've talked about Snowden a few times, but there's movement. There's movement. But it's very hard on the defensive side. Offensive side, there's a lot of positions where guys can make movement, where guys can make a statement. Delmar Glaze is one of those guys. With Colton Miller out, you move Thayer over to the left, and you got Delmar Glaze at right. Do I think he's an all-pro right now? Of course not. Do I think he's opened a lot of eyes, and do I think he could play in this league and maybe even potentially this year? I do. I do. I do. That young man's talented. So again, it's because there's on this defensive side, it's very hard Listen, it's unfair to Tyree if you don't know his circumstances about originally the team looked at it like a red shirt, wasn't even healthy all last year. This is where they really perceived a rookie year to be. It's unfair to him when you take where he is now and then say, gee, you're not Malcolm and you're not Crosby. Okay. Is he Malcolm Crosby? Absolutely not. Do I think he could get there? I do. Is he working hard and putting in effort? Certainly. Does he have areas he's got to improve? Of course. He's a second year guy who hasn't even played in a second year game yet. Come on now. I understand that people enjoy negativity, but give me a break. I live in Realville. All right, next. Um, I have no idea. I'm going to go on to the next one. Not this person, Mike H, says he was watching a Netflix special, Receiver, and he noticed that Patrick Mahomes is one of the producers on there. I don't know that to be fact. This is what Mike says. He wants to know if I think that that could be the reason there were no highlights from the Christmas game. I think it's certainly a possibility. I would say that that wasn't a big game for Devontae. I wouldn't even say that he played good that game. Maybe that's why, but certainly I think there's a definite possibility to your thinking there. All right, let's keep going now. Um, this one wants to know after if the Raiders wait till after the preseason games to pick a quarterback, could there be chemistry and issues? And that's from Andrew B. No, 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 there'll be no chemistry issues. I can tell you this: I have been around football for decades. I've never been around a team this close. They're very, very close. Um, very, very close. And Aiden wants to be the starting quarterback. So does Gardner. But they are committed to one another personally as friends. Their relationship is special. No, there's not going to be chemistry issues, and the team's not going to get divided over this issue. Team just wants to win. See, this is something sometimes I think fans miss. Those players just want to win. It's all they want. And so they just want the guys playing that give them the best chance to win. And if they wait, nobody's going to care. Um, this next one comes from Michael B. Says Hondo, if the Raiders have a great season, will they move all in to keep Patrick Graham as defensive coordinator? That's Michael B. Good question, Michael. But I want to look at it from a different angle. Patrick Graham deserves the opportunity to be a head coach. He's earned it. He's earned it. Do I think the Raiders would do everything they could to keep him? I do. But I don't think that's what it will be for Patrick Graham. I know him personally and I consider him a friend. This is not a guy that an extra 500 grand or $1 million is going to keep him if he thinks he can go to a winning situation. So that's my personal opinion. Do I think they would try? Absolutely, I do. Okay, the next one comes us from Paula P. Paula P wants to know, Hondo, with as great as the defense is already playing in training camp, which we just alluded to, it would seem the chances of losing Patrick Graham are very large. Who are some guys on this team that are rising stars that could replace him? Rob Leonard. Rob Leonard. I think he would be a terrific defensive coordinator. Would I rather have Patrick Graham? I would. But do I think Rob Leonard would do well? I certainly do. So that's a good question. Um, this next one comes to us from Eric D. Eric wants to know Is it possible that we could use a two quarterback system of Aiden and Gardner depending on the competition that week and their strengths? Well, there's an old adage in football that's been around a long time. And the adage is simply if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. Now, obviously, you're always going to have more than one quarterback, but it's basically that you want somebody to differentiate themselves. You've seen a couple of times in history, but it was even more in college than in the pros, where teams tried to go with a two QB scheme. Do I think they could? For sure, especially if it's close and nobody's beating the other out. But I think ideally they would like someone to take the bull by the horns and take care of it. Um, the next question comes from Sean O. It's about penalties and is there a lack of discipline? No. Now I need to go back. That was not a completely accurate statement. When you know the snap count and it's lit up like a high school football field and there isn't 80,000 people screaming and it's a very friendly environment and you're jumping off sides, that's totally discipline. Unforced errors are always discipline. So when you ask it from a player standpoint, absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. And I said last night, and I'll maintain this, Antonio Pierce knows how to deal with that stuff. See, this was my dilemma last night before I taped the podcast. Was I knew it was disappointing and I needed to be blunt, but I knew there would be some that took it. Oh my God, Hondo says the sky's falling. I never said that. I made it very clear. Now, if you only listen to a few minutes, that's your fault. But I enunciated. There's no reason to panic. Haven't even played a preseason game. But there are still things that need to be called out. It's training camp to be worked on. I'm going to tell you this. Antonio Pierce is going to have this machine ready. Better to have the warts show up in the first scrimmage than even in the first preseason game or the third season game of the season. He'll work on this stuff. It'll get repaired. But I can't report on future. My job last night was to report on last night. And so, do I think it was discipline? Sure, I do. But is it something, Sean, that I think is of great concern? No, not at all. Okay, the next one comes to us from Mary C. Mary wants to know, Hondo, it was very disappointing to hear the report last night, but I always appreciate your honesty. Do you think it's time to panic on the quarterback situation? No. And I would tell you if I did. I give you my word. I give my word. Gardner Minshew has a very long resume of success, and Aiden Aiden O'Connell has a lot of reasons and things he's shown us that he can do the job, and we've seen good things in this camp. Not dominance, but good things against the best defense. I will tell you if I think there's a chance to panic. Steve R says, Hondo, do you regret now saying that you thought the Raiders did a right this thing, not drafting a quarterback? Yes. I do not regret it. I'm sorry. No, I do not regret it. I think they did the absolute right thing. They are building this thing into a machine. And I have full confidence they're still going to get to 10 wins. I'm not backing down from that. I mean, I can't control what you see or read from other people, but I'm here every day. I see the way they fix things. I see the way they correct things. I love the fact. I mean, there's no Lilliputians running around with fairy dust trying to make everybody feel good about themselves. No, people are being held accountable. I like that. I like it a lot. I like the way this staff coaches. I like the way these players respond. There is not one player that I mentioned who didn't play well who I don't have the utmost of respect for as people, as people. And they've shown me that they are that as football players. So there you go. Next one comes in Hondo. Tommy Eichenberg seems to be the real deal. Does this mean we may not re-sign Robert Spillane? Robert Spillane is playing at a massive level. Robert Spillane is playing great. Tommy is a rookie who's playing great in camp, who is heretofore not even played in a preseason game. I think that conversation is way down the road. Way down the road. And I have a sneaking suspicion you're going to see Robert Spillane get re-signed. There you go. Hondo. This one's kind of funny. I wish the Raiders would go trade for Hendon Hooker with the Lions. Thoughts? Pete N. Okay. I also think the Lions would have to want to trade Hendon Hooker, and they don't want to. You know, everybody wants to go trade for this or trade for that. Well, what if teams don't want to trade those guys? If somebody called today and wanted to trade for Tommy Eichenberg, I don't think the Raiders are real receptive to that. Now, if somebody wanted to overpay, I'm sure they would listen. You have to. But no, I don't. You have no body of work with Hendon Hooker in the NFL to be confident for the price you would have to overpay to get him. So no, I don't think that's feasible at all. Next one comes to us from Lori M, and Lori wants to know. Hang on, I'm reading this real quick. Lori wants to know from me, what is the 3 most positive and 3 most negative things about camp so far? Okay, 3 most positive. I think the effort has been phenomenal on guys on the coaching staff as far as coaching, holding guys accountable. I think it's been great. It's not just holding guys accountable. That was wrong. You screwed up. It's you did that wrong and go right back to teaching. I will never forget one of the things about my father that I loved, and I did not realize it until I was older. But I had one of my best friends growing up. His name was Scott Tundis, and Scott was over at our house. And my dad got on me, corrected me for something I did wrong, and I deserved it. And he got on me and said, took me aside, corrected me, and said, "Hey, you should have done this. I handled the situation wrong." And I'll never forget Scott saying, "That's really cool the way your dad corrects and teaches." Now, he had a great dad too, so that was not a slam on his dad. But the principle was, I think there was, since I've covered this team, there's been a lot of you did this wrong without a lot of correction. You're seeing it in correction. I think the coaching staff effort has been amazing. Second thing that has really stood out to me is that the defense has found a way to go up another notch. They are suffocating. And you don't want to call the dogs off, but there are literally times when I have watched him practice and taken notes. Matter of fact, I got some notes here from the other day. Okay, here's a note from the other day that I think you'll find interesting. This was a pre-snap note. No chance whatsoever. Raider D read this. And it's hard for an offense to get some confidence when you're going against that. And now let's also be honest. The Raider D is going against the Raider O every day, so they're starting to recognize formations and know what's coming. That makes it more difficult too. Defenses always have that advantage. But to me, the level of play of the defense, I mean, first through third string. There are a couple guys that maybe aren't playing well or have disappointed. A couple. But top to bottom, this defensive roster is just slaughtering it, playing really, really well. The third thing that really stands out to me as a super positive in this camp, and I think it's a good one, is you haven't seen either one of your quarterbacks drop their head. There's no quit. Has the Raider offense had some penalty issues and drops? Yes. Absolutely. I'll get to that in a minute. but there's been no quit. These guys are good attitudes and they're just competing. And I will tell you this about Gardner and Aiden. I will tell you this, that they're still taking shots. Okay. Did they have some interceptions? Yes. But they're not so afraid of making a mistake, which is where Aiden was early, that they're not playing the game. All right. 3 negatives. This is real easy. I want to see the offense, and let's start with the quarterbacks. I want to see somebody differentiate. Gardner is not a 4th-round pick in his 2nd year. He's played at a high level. He's making a lot of money. He should be farther ahead than Aiden O'Connell. And right now, neither one has differentiated themselves at all. And I think that is disappointing. Very fair. Second of all, drops and mental mistakes from veterans. Again, I mentioned earlier, I don't think it's a discipline issue as far as from the coaching staff, but they need to be in there. Hey, we're getting our butt kicked. Let's go. Let's go. Those are troublesome. And then the third thing that has concerned me is JPJ not back. There were high expectations of him, and then they come into camp, and coming into camp, AP thought he was going to be there. Then he wasn't. They're like, oh, probably 4 days. I was told up till Wednesday, still not there. I think that's something to be concerned about now. That's a draft pick that they had a 1st-round grade on, as well as did most of the NFL, everyone in the NFL I know, who you expected to come in and play. And he's not there. If I was going to add an extra point of positivity, it'd be Cody Whitehair. He's come in and played really, really well. So there you go. All right, what am I looking for tomorrow in camp? Couple of things. I want the offense to come out mad. I want them to come out with a chip on their shoulder. I want them to come out and make a statement. Do I think they're going to come out and dominate this defense? No. But do I think they can come out and play a whole heck of a lot better with a chip on their shoulder? 100%. Number 2, I'm going to watch for mental errors. I'm going to watch for drops. I'm going to watch for jumping off sides. Do guys take personal responsibility and fix that? Third one, and I'm going to watch this closely, very, very closely, because I think this one is a big one. I want to watch how the younger guys on the defense, are they feeling good about themselves? And so do they let up a little bit? Oh, we own these guys. Remember, mature teams understand the last play doesn't matter. Remember what I told you. This is an adage in football. I've told this to you for 5 years. Good teams find a way to win games when they're not playing well. The defense is playing well. Do they rest on their laurels? Or is there blood in the water and they're sharks? I appreciate every single one of you people. It was great to meet so many of you out at camp. Again, if you come out to camp, you better say hi to me. I appreciate all of you. Hope you have a wonderful day. I hope your Sunday was great. God bless you all.